So many of our favorites to watch. Oh look, now they're being bashed. I guess that's what we should expect on the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast.
Whenever he answers, you make sure that you know whatever he's doing is 10 times more fun than the phone conversation.
What are you guys doing?
He'll like pick up the phone and like run into the room with a whole bunch of other people and start talking to them.
What are you guys doing right now?
Don't ask. That's what he tried to do. It's a trap. It's a trap.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Bullied Nostalgia Podcast, your regular dose of revisiting our nostalgic movies and TV shows in a darker and more depressing perspective. I'm joined today by John.
Season 3, baby!
Chance.
Please, my location is redacted. Send help as quickly as possible.
And Kylan.
Praise Beethoven.
Okay, wow.
I got one!
Yay!
Island successfully stole my joke again.
Yep, it's my joke now.
And I'm
I feel
Tim.
like after the feedback of the end of the last season, he's taking it really seriously.
I will only say praise Beethoven now.
I'm enjoying this energy that everyone has already. Chance must have had a good nap during the movie.
I did.
Okay, today's movie is barely a movie. It's an episode of a TV show that never became a TV show.
For reasons we won't get into. I'm kidding. It's that it's bad. That's why
It is called Fluppy Dogs. Now, Fluppy Dogs was a cartoon that Disney tried to launch in the early 80s. Disney Afternoon would become very famous for hits like DuckTales, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop. But those weren't the first shows that they did.
Sorry, I just want to care to mention that Chance is now mouthing the words to DuckTales to himself.
Not DuckTales, Darkwing Duck.
Okay, that's fair. That makes
I know
sense.
all the lyrics to that song.
All the lyrics?
All the lyrics. Do you want me to prove it right now, John? I will.
I think this is worth our time. Go for it, Chance.
Daring duck of mystery, Darkwing of the night. Who's that in the shadows? Darkwing of the night. Oh, how does the next line go?
Oh, wow. This sounds like all the words.
Something bad guys are out of luck. Here comes Darkwing Duck. Look out. When there's trouble, you call DW. Darkwing Duck. Let's get dangerous. Bow, Darkwing Duck. Look out. When there's trouble, you call DW. And then it's very repetitive after that. But that was a major part of my childhood, actually. Which is weird, because I don't think... Did we own Darkwing Duck?
I don't think so.
I feel like we must have bought a season on DVD
I
or
definitely
something like
think
that.
we saw some amount of Darkwing Duck, but not a lot.
I mean, we're way off track now, but I certainly loved Darkwing Duck when I was young. John and I had a number of the toys. We almost had all of them, I think.
I particularly remember having a lot of emotional investment in their Sinister Six episode, where all the bad guys team up against Darkwing Duck.
With Negaduck.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, we've talked about doing maybe an episode down the road that is just a bunch of Disney Saturday morning cartoons.
But that would have been good. And we know what happens when we watch good
and
movies.
We can't allow that. Before Disney had hits like Goof Troop and DuckTales, they had shows like Gummy Bears, which is what we talked about in a previous episode. One of the other shows they tried to launch was Fluppy Dogs. And so this show got a pilot. It aired as a bit of a test to see if there was enough interest to make a TV show out of it. And there wasn't. Not enough people watched the pilot, and it then never became a TV show. However, our rules for this podcast are that we needed to have these shows in our house, and John and I had this recorded on a VHS tape.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure when Grandma hit record on the tape, I think we missed the first 1.5 minutes of the movie.
That's fine, because going into this movie, it feels like you missed the first 30.
But anyways, we can get into it later. But as a kid, I thought there was so much more that happened at the start, but turns out we were only 1 minute late to the show.
Yeah, Kai literally made a comment like that. He was like, "Where's the rest of the show?" It just throws you right in.
Grandma forgot to record it. That's where it was.
Grandma forgot to make this show.
Grandma forgot to upload it to YouTube.
All right, Chance. It's your time to shine. Tell us what happened in Fluppy Dogs. What are Fluppy Dogs?
Okay, so out the gate, when it comes to characters, you have Claire and Jamie, the two humans, Jamie's mom, and then 5 Fluppy Dogs. Their names are Tink, Bink, Stanley, Tibby, and Ozzy. And then there are 2 villains. The first one, his name is Amos, I believe. Amos. But here's the problem. The problem is the last guy, the main villain of the movie, whose name I couldn't tell you what it was because every time someone says it, it's different. We know his name is JJ something, but all the collection of names we got JJ Wagstaff, JJ Backstab, JJ Wavestaff, JJ Wavestep, JJ Wagstep. All of them sound just slightly different, but I couldn't tell you for the life of me what it was because the audio is so poor and no one says it the same way.
They say Stanley's name. So we're talking about the 5 dogs. They say Stanley's name excessively all the time.
Stanley!
Like every sentence starts with Stanley. So he's clearly the main dog who's blue. Then Tippy is the female counterpart. She's pink. She's second most important. The third most important is Ozzy, the sniffer. He's green. And then the twins,
Bink and Dink.
They only actually say their names once in the entire movie. After that, they refer to them as the twins.
Okay, no one who's listening has any clue what you guys are talking about.
I was trying to get across the characters of the movie.
Okay, now explain the storyline.
But I wanted to make a point about that one character having such a terrible name choice for such a poor audio. But
okay, so Fluppy Dogs are more
Let
common.
me explain it. I'll do it now. I was just making a comment on the name thing. But so the concept of Fluppy Dogs is there are these 5, we'll just go with the term aliens because interdimensional beings and all that junk is too wordy.
They're mythical creatures.
They're bipedal, colorful dogs.
Yeah, bipedal dogs who can talk. And the concept is they hop from world to world using this magic key and they're trying to get home. The problem is every time they use that key to go to a different world, they have no idea where they're going to pop out. So this time they pop out on Earth. And from that point, to try and get back home. They're aided by 2 humans, Jamie and Claire, and are constantly being chased by JJ Who's-a-What's-It, who wants to capture them for his exotic animal.
I think his name's supposed to be Wagstaff.
Maybe.
Wave step.
Where did you get Wagstaff from? Your own listening, or was there consensus on the internet?
You don't think that's what it is? That's
a very
in my
common
head.
name, so.
Common name?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of a wave step?
Just as often as I've heard Wagstaff. And by that I mean 4 times in this movie.
So, as Chance said, there's a group of 5 mythical creatures that resemble dogs that come from a world of rainbow lights in the sky and crystal flowers. They're adventurous and they're curious, and so they use a key that opens a door to another world or another reality, and they go exploring in it, but what ends up happening is they then can't find their way home. So the series was meant to be about these dogs who would jump from reality to reality, trying to find their home. And as Chance said, the majority of this episode takes place on Earth, and they're having to pretend to be dogs to fit in.
And I feel like they do a pretty good job of fitting in.
I don't know,
Okay.
John.
Actually,
What
wanna
a
make-
weird comment.
at the very beginning of the movie, what ends up happening is these 5 dogs appear in a supermarket. I want to point out some key factors about these dogs. 1, they walk on their hind legs. 2, most of them are not brown. In fact, none of them are. They're orange, red, green, blue, and purple. Thirdly, they're all decked out in exploring gear. One of them has a can on its head, and the other one's holding binoculars. And finally, they speak English. But only one person in the entire scene recognizes that these are not normal dogs.
Yeah.
Everyone else just says, "Go get those mutts."
Shopkeeper's
If you
like,
see a green dog run past you and say, "Let me go," and just assume that's normal.
yeah,
Or
shopkeeper's like, let me go get those regular dogs.
Chance,
Even
you
at the
said
end, Amos was like, "Are you sure it's not a regular dog?" Chance is like, "It's bright green."
So, Chance, you said this show wasn't good.
Yeah.
Why? Can you give us some context there?
It's just 101 Dalmatians again.
I loved it in
What?
I loved it in 101
There is a
Dalmatians.
weird.
You know the Dalmatians don't talk, right?
I loved that one scene in 101 Dalmatians where they were flying around on their bed. It's my favorite part.
I'm not saying this show is good, but you picked the weirdest comparison. I don't know that it has anything in common with 101 Dalmatians.
They're dogs.
Kind of.
Let's just make
Are
They're-
they dogs?
They are completely normal dogs.
Ask any person who works at a grocery store. They are dogs.
It's about a bunch of dogs trying to escape an eclectic animal collector, and through the help of the humans they meet, they're able to escape. Those are 2 very similar plot points. And don't make the case that it's about them getting home, because it's not, because they come back in the last 3 minutes anyways, so obviously it was pointless.
So, honestly, I think that it's not a bad idea. Fluppy dogs were a line of toys that had already come out. They were stuffed dogs. And I might send you guys a pic here in a little bit so that you can see what that looked like.
I
But
was hoping you were gonna say you were gonna send us
Yeah.
stuff.
Fluffy dog, I've been saving them for the last 35 years just for this moment.
You get a Fluppy, you get a Fluppy, you get a Fluppy.
The toy line that this was based off of was clearly directed at little girls. But what they did was they found a way to make cute little stuffed dogs adventurous and interesting to boys as well. There's action, there's intrigue, and the idea of being lost in another reality and trying to find your way home is a wicked good idea. So good, in fact, there was a TV show called Sliders in the 90s that was hugely popular, did several seasons, about people who jump through a portal to who knows what reality. They do an episode in each reality and then they jump onto the next one, onto the next one, onto the next one, hoping to one day find their way home.
That's just season 3 of Reboot.
True.
Sure.
This movie is just into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Flubbiverse.
As a kid, I always thought it was called Fluppies, but it's called Fluppy Dogs.
I thought the same too. I always referred to it as Fluppies, and that's probably because in the show they only ever
Not
refer.
dogs, we're Fluppies. Every opportunity they have, they refuse the name dogs.
Yeah, in the show they call them Fluppies, but the title of the show is Fluppy Dogs. I don't think they call them Fluppy Dogs in the show at all.
They refute being dogs.
They call that an insult.
One thing I will say about this show is there's a lot of really great quotes. I like how Wagstaff is always like, "Hey, miss!" for everything.
When it comes to Wagstaff specifically, he was probably my favorite character. And the reason being he has 2 different type of voices. He has his indoors, "I'll get those Fluppies," and then every 3 seconds that's followed by "Flup!" Those were Fluppies, and now Fluppy! I really love yelling that word, and it's so funny.
Yeah, I've also got drive, Amish. We're after fluppies, not guppies.
He's just milking it every scene he's in. I also am a big fan of how Claire always says, fantastic. I might try and use that one more often. And actually, I was asking Kai if he wanted to do something after we watched this. And he'd be like, no, I think I'll just stay home. I'll call it a night early. And I'd be like, adventure, Jamie. Adventure.
Stanley is such a bad influence.
Legit. Every time he's like, Jamie, let's break the law. I don't think so. Adventure, Jamie. Adventure.
So,
Jamie, let me get you kicked out of your house. Adventure, Jamie. Adventure. Skip school, Jamie. Adventure. And then at a certain point, he's like, no, we've got too much trouble on Jamie. Let's leave him alone now. It's like, oh man, Jamie isn't ready for more adventure. Let's kick him out of the club
And go get Claire.
Claire has no morals.
That is true. They replaced Jamie as soon as he wasn't willing to break the law anymore.
Yep.
Again, it's don't tell your parents the truth because they can't handle it. Pretty early on, Stanley's like, Jamie, I need you to promise me something. You're never, ever, ever going to tell someone this secret. He's like, you have my word. You want to teach kids that some secrets aren't supposed to be kept. It's important to be able to tell your parents things. So then mom's getting super distraught because Jamie's lying to her and all these weird things are happening. And then we get no closure on mom. The last thing we see mom is with her head in her hands at the kitchen table, sad and confused. And that's never get anything on mom after that.
Okay, I'm going to send you guys a picture of what Fluppy dog toys look like.
Oh my.
Oh, I hope you sent that in the mail.
I like the purple one.
They look like crap.
What?
Yes, that's true.
It looks like somebody painted spaghetti and then draped it on a teddy bear.
That is so accurate. That is so unbelievably accurate. I don't think you can get a definition that's better.
They do look homemade.
They do look homemade, yes.
They're gonna say homeless.
Also, they're homeless in the show. That's perfect.
They do look like they've been rolled around in dirt. There's 6 of them. What's the story of the long lost?
Oh, look at John with the insightful questions. We'll circle back to that. So I have 2 trains of thought. Number one could ask why someone saw these dumpster toys and thought, let's make a show out of this.
Yes.
On the other hand, any criticisms against the show, when you see the inciting toy line, really make those criticisms fade away. It's like,
That's the accurate amount of effort to put into this.
look how much they turned around these dumpster toys into a show about world hopping and villains and monsters from other lands.
This just feels like another Double Dragon.
I appreciate the yellow one has red eyes. The most evil Fluffy.
The 6th Fluppy, you mean?
The Nega Fluppy.
The one who shall not be named.
So even though we didn't get any more episodes, it leaked what the series Bible had in it.
Ooh.
Bible?
Yeah.
Is that what Wagstaff had in his hand on? The Fluffy Bible?
I'd have to look up what his actual name is. No, actually, he never appears again. In the pilot show that came out, essentially, he's a collector of rare animals, and he discovers these mythical creatures, and so he needs to have them in his collection. And so the whole pilot episode is him trying to catch the fluppies.
Okay, hold on. Before you continue, this is really good. Can we just talk about him keeping exotic animals in his household?
Like the giant snake?
He has a room full of cages with like antelopes in them. That room's got to smell like crap.
That's his study.
Well, the
Surrounded.
other thing too is when they break into his house, they're riding on that flower hippo or whatever it is from the other reality. And at no point he's like, wait, that's probably rare. Like this creature that doesn't exist in our plane of existence is wrecking his house. And at no point is he like, oh, wait a minute, there's more mythical creatures.
He's got so much taxidermy in the house. At what point does he decide, I want this exotic animal to stay alive?
He's trying to get every animal, but when it dies, he taxidermies it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's just going through the ones that are still alive.
It's got the Fluppy, is what you're telling me.
Do we have any theories onto why he owns a book that talks about fluppies when no one else in the world knows about fluppies? And do we have any sense as to why Mr. Wagstaff owns the town and has control over the mayor and getting the mayor to wake up and open the pound for him?
Money.
What a basic answer.
Boring.
Money.
All right, that was my interruption. Sorry, Tim. Back to Secret Files.
So Wagstaff is trying to catch the Fluppies the whole episode. They do end up opening a door to their home reality, and he chases them into it. And then 6 months later, the Fluppies come back, and he's nowhere to be seen. This is probably similar to the Ewoks. They look small and cute, but they probably eat human flesh, I think is the takeaway. In the Fluppy series Bible, it never mentions him again. So he was never going to be in the show again. Whatever happened when he went to the Fluppy homeworld, that was a one-way trip.
In the script, they never wrote his name down, so they were just guessing every time.
Okay, I just want to clarify, what about Amish? He went to the Fluppy world. Why aren't we talking about him?
Yeah, he wasn't a bad dude. He's just a butler. He never committed any crimes.
The show, moving forward, would have introduced more Fluppies than the core 5. And the 6th Fluppy would have been one of the main ones. I think it was Stanley's sister or something like that is who that was going to be. And so she would be one of the reoccurring 6. And every episode would revolve around one of 3 storylines. Either it would be an episode about the Fluppies making life hard on Jamie and Claire. Classic.
Just committing all crime.
Adventure, Jamie! Adventure!
How far will they push?
Jamie, cocaine is adventure. Adventure, Jamie.
It would be about the other Fluppies in the world and helping them on one-off adventures. So there would be...
Continue the Fluppy invasion. Yep.
That's right. It would be like an invasion of the body snatchers situation as these intelligent dogs would be pretending to be dogs throughout the city and the world. And so the core cast would, maybe do a one-off episode with a random Fluppy that you'd never see again. Or the third focus of an episode would be them jumping to other realities and exploring other worlds. I love the idea of absolutely destroying Jamie and his mom's life, but overall, that's a pretty good idea for a TV show. They've got this massive army of invading walking, talking dogs to have adventures with. They've got to try and acclimate to the normal world, and they're going on extraterrestrial adventures every second episode. So I think that there was a lot of cool ideas there, but obviously none of them ever happened.
Yes, I think one of my favorite moments of the movie, we've kind of already began tying together. At the end of the movie, the Fluppies have returned to their homeworld with Wagstaff and Amish, and then the door gets closed. So
And the hippo.
And the hippo. So it's assumed that Jamie and Claire will never see them again. They're sad because they had an adventurous life with the Fluppies. Time has passed.
6 months, assumedly.
Months, but it's only literally been 5 seconds in the show. And you've had a long time to mourn the loss of the Fluppies. You really don't think they're ever going to come back. They do, And then they're on a flying bed, and Jamie turns around and sees this giant door open up with just countless fluppies running through it. He says, "What's going on, Stanley?" And he says, "Adventure, Jamie, adventure." In my mind, this is what's happened. The 5 fluppies were actually lying that they were lost. They were looking for the proper reality.
They were scouting it out, of course.
They were scouting it out. Most particularly, not just for the environment, but for the meat it could provide.
Not only that, the powers that they have in that environment, right? They can fly in this one. That's super powerful to an army of flying bipedal dogs that eat meat.
So once they had a chance to have a taste of Wagstaff and Amish, they came back in full force. That is the sequel I want to see.
What's going on? Adventure, Jamie. Now, can I eat your arm really quick?
Adventure!
The series Bible does tell us that the Fluppies' technology level on their planet is akin to Earth's 18th century.
But they have dimensional keys.
So, Sean's just like, what?
Victorian era fluppies.
Steam-powered magic keys.
Hey, I do think that you're onto something, John. Like, they wouldn't be able to just outright conquer Earth. They'd have to learn the technology, and then...
This Fluffy is how an AK-47 works.
Special training for a special dog.
Suddenly, a lot of Fluppies were induced in the police training.
Wow, Jamie, do you have any weapons? I'd like to know about them.
Do you have any weapons? Weapons, Jamie! Weapons!
Genocide, Jamie! Genocide! I get a feeling that's going to become a new callback. Adventure, Jamie! Adventure!
Read my mind.
I have a couple things. They all revolve around Jamie, because that poor man's just a little punching bag. First and foremost, there's a part where he loses his quote-unquote dog that turns out to be Stanley. And so he's running after him, and then he loses track of Stanley, and so he sees a ladder and goes, yeah,
Yes!
probably climb that.
I wonder if my dog is up this ladder in the middle of a construction site.
Just really dumb.
Wait, so when you said that Jamie was a punching bag, you meant you wanted to make sure everyone knew that you thought he was stupid?
He's so easy to make fun of.
Poor Jamie.
He's about to be my punching bag.
So, because we wouldn't have told people where to find fluppies, because we didn't probably talk about it on our last episode. Did
Oh,
we?
yeah, because we didn't give anybody a heads up because that was the season finale, so no one knew that this is what we were doing this episode.
Yeah, so fluppies can be found on YouTube. When you YouTube it, there's 2 main videos that come up. We recommend you watch the remastered one for good audio and visual quality. However, there is a second video that's an hour long instead of 45 minutes, and it includes commercials. Chance and I made a point of watching the commercials.
John made a point of watching the commercials.
Yeah, apparently you guys rewatched them after the fact?
Yes.
They were stellar. We were gut laughing on quite a few of them.
There was one where the commercial, it was about a Mountain Dew, and it's like some dude surfing or whatever.
No. Like, don't plow. Okay, so these commercials are not just commercials. These are guys on cowboy hats, surfing in the water, drinking Mountain Dew. And they're playing their surfboards like a guitar.
And then in the last 3 seconds of the commercial, it gets hard cut early to a news anchor who goes, "Are you at risk for AIDS? Find out Monday." And then it's gone.
And it's back to Disney on Sunday.
Oof.
What?
Yeah, I really do feel like the 80s ads, like if you were to just put them on TV now, they would be huge hits. Like people would just laugh at them, think they're amazing. You almost have to just bring it back.
It's funny because there's a movie called Demolition Man, and it's about a police officer who gets accused of a crime he didn't commit, and so he gets thrown in prison, but it's a new style of prison where they get frozen and then they get thawed out 40 years later. And so he gets thawed in the future, and the future has a real satirical resemblance to the current culture that we live in now.
It's super civilization, so everyone's nice to everyone all the time.
Yeah, no one wants to offend anyone else. But the most popular channels, John, are channels that just air old commercials from the 80s. That's the fad, is people just love jingles and
Oh my
commercials
goodness.
from the 80s. So just another thing where that movie is calling it.
Predictive, yeah. Tim, yesterday he texted us and was like, hey, just a reminder, Fluppy Day tomorrow. And then this morning I started to think about what would that mean to have Fluppy Day as a family annual holiday?
We go into a different dimension.
What would we do to celebrate?
Take over the world
Buy a dog.
Disguise ourselves as dogs.
and commit genocide.
Adventure, Jamie! Adventure! Chance, I hate to break it to you. We might have to legally change your name to Jamie just so that we can keep this up.
I'm the one who said it the most so far. Why am I the one who has to change my name?
It would be funny though.
I guess.
So I guess let's jump to closing.
Oh my goodness. Chance is the Jamie of this podcast.
No, I would not consider myself the one who's being convinced of a bad influence.
I mean, in the same way that we treat Jamie.
All right. John, do you want to start your closing?
Yeah, sure. It was a positive rewatch. There were multiple scenes, probably 4 of them, where I knew what was going to happen before it happened. The musical cues brought back a lot of memories. So overall, it was just a really positive experience. I do agree that it's a cool concept for a show. It is only a 45-minute commitment, so it's pretty short. Would I ever have a reason to watch something like this again? Probably not. But I had a really good time rewatching it.
All right, Chance.
This is a dumb movie. I think there are very silly parts, very bad parts. However, I would not say I disenjoyed all of my time. As I made apparent, I did sleep through half of it, so that half was good. I wouldn't say if you watch this you're going to have an awful time. There are worse things you can watch. And if you go into it with the mindset that you're going to make fun of it, you can probably enjoy it. I'd probably give it a -2. It's okay. If you make fun of it, you can enjoy yourself, but it's not one of those things where it's like, oh man, we should watch Fluppies because it's good, or that you'll have a great time. If you have to watch it, it's not drinking chloroform.
But didn't you sleep?
I had
So
a shot before.
was like drinking chloroform.
You don't drink chloroform. Dad, can we have context for what another -2 looks like? Do you remember?
Land Before Time 4 was a -2.
I agree
Just
with
like-
that rating
I
less now.
think the Fluppies as good as Land Before Time 4.
Barf. Gag me. Kylan.
Human flesh cookie. But if you want a serious answer, I would not watch this movie again. No, it's not very good.
Whoa, season 3, Kylan gives real rating.
Whoa! Who is this person standing here?
Sorry, did I just miss a cookie?
You
Yeah,
said a human flesh cookie.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
A Hamish cookie.
That got dark.
This show is not great, but when you stack it up against the other cartoons that were out in 1986, and even when you stack it up against Disney's Afternoon, the concept for this show might be the best that Disney has ever done. Line it up against Goof Troop. Okay, that's just like Goofy with his family. Tailspin is just What If Baloo but Pilot? Or Darkwing Duck, What If Batman but Silly? And this is legitimately high concept with tons of options for what the show could have been. We never got to see any of that stuff, and we never will. And the toys that it's based on look like mops that got moldy.
Tim,
Yeah.
if you ever do write for Disney, do you think...
Oh, bringing the Fluppies back. Faux show.
please don't do that ever again.
Actually, Chance and Kai and I watched the new DuckTales. I think it started in 2017 or something like that. But if anyone is listening to this podcast and they have not seen DuckTales, legitimately don't watch any of the stuff that we do on this podcast. Watch new DuckTales It is so good.
It's so good.
It might be the best cartoon ever made. It is.
Whoa, I do not agree with that, but sure.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
Goodness.
It's very deep, goes deep into its lore, has tons of humor for adults, and it has tons of nostalgia baked in there too. And there is a part of one of the later shows when Fowl is looking at all of its enemies on computer screens and the Fluppies are there. So
We could have had Fluppies.
we could have had Fluppies, who knows, if the show had kept going. Like John, I don't know when or if I will ever watch this again. It holds a special part in my childhood, and there's now a part of me that imagines what it could have been, but the show is just fine. It's not particularly good, and it has a bunch of stuff with like flying beds that don't really make any sense. Probably won't be rewatching it, but it's free on YouTube with commercials if you want.
I think the commercials were the best part.
I think that's probably true.
Actually, I do think that the weird fluffy hair dusts when they scratch their heads, it's like the dandruff, seems to have the power of anything they want it to. Like
Tearing apart a house?
Because the first time around, the bed just kind of flies away on its own. And then in the next 30 seconds, they've learned how to pilot the bed, which doesn't really make sense because you don't know how that would work. The bed has a GPS. It can rip roofs off buildings, keep people safe inside.
The flying things almost feels like it doesn't belong in everything else. They have a magic key that opens doorways. Okay, that's magic, but they're also wearing, like Chance said, explorer gear. There seems to be some rune-based magic science that they have. And then just also, when a human scratches them,
Yeah, I feel
magical
like
things happen.
it's a cool concept for when they're in different realities. Their bodies have like different effects or whatever.
Yeah.
But they never...
Fluppies catch on fire and die.
So wait, because a Fluffy in a cage couldn't just scratch his own head. It needs the human to scratch its head so it can escape.
And so that's why I'm assuming the Fluppy that got recorded in the Fluppy Bible, I'm assuming that's why they didn't do an invasion then, because they didn't know that they had powers, because they didn't have any human slaves.
Oh, okay. So they had visited in the past.
And Stanley, a couple times in the movie, says, Jamie, scratch my head or scratch my ears. So it implies that he can't do it himself.
So the question is, if a human hand is dismembered from the body, or do they need to keep the humans alive to have their power?
That's my understanding, is they're going to enslave the human race. But you're right, they can definitely eat a lot of humans before that becomes an issue.
So would Fluffy Day then be like the day that Fluffy...
The day that cannibalism is acceptable?
Or the day they got independence from Fluppies centuries down the road?
You know, the Night of Broken Glass, if you've ever heard about that? That became a historic night because it was actually a horrible night in World War II. So I like to imagine the Night of the Fluppy is a day where everyone looked up and just saw hundreds of dogs raining from the sky to come and devour them.
Raining cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Exactly. When they first traveled to Earth, they planted that prophecy.
Well, let's wrap things up. For people who are interested in our next episode, we'll be back soon with Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls.
We only do sequels in the Nesbitt family.
If there was a Fluppies 2, we'd be all over that.
Adventure, Jamie! Adventure!
100%. And you can look up for weirdos while you're at it.
Bye-bye!
Kisses!
Bye-bye!
Bye-bye!